Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Three Principles Global Community webinar. The Three Principles Global Community, or 3PGC, is a nonprofit organization that's committed to bringing an understanding of the three principles to people throughout the world. Today, we have Natasha Swerdloff with us. Natasha lives in Denmark and has been self-employed since 1996, specializing in coaching, leadership training, organizational change, communication, facilitation, and process consulting. Natasha co-authored the book Coming Home with Dick and Bettinger, and she now teaches seminars and speaks at conferences all over the world around about the three principles. And today she's going to talk to us about realizing yourself, which is a wonderful topic. So, Natasha, thank you so much for being here. Also, I just say right up front, I'm going to put all Natasha's information under the recording, including her website. So if you do want to reach her, you'll be able to do that through her website. So thank you, Natasha. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I've been really excited to come here tonight, and I found a subtitle to the title that I made, which is Finding Peace in Uncertain Times. I couldn't help but want to address what's going on right now. It was not going on when we found the title a few months ago, but now I do feel like there's something that I want to address. So right now we're in this time that seems uncertain, insecure. The world is changing rapidly, and you might find yourself feeling uncertain, like you can't find your grounding. You might worry. So I thought I wanted to address that. And there's three things that I want to come to tonight. There's 3 points that I want to make. One of them is, where do we find peace in these times? Where does it reside? I also want to look at, why don't we feel this peace all the time? You know, why do we forget to look where it's actually at? And the last point I want to make is, well, how is this practical? What can we use this for? Why is it that we want to look in this direction? So the practical applications or implications of looking in this direction. So as things around us change, our mind has a tendency to look for certainty again, because it feels helpless, hopeless, like, what am I going to stand on? There can be a sense of fear coming from, well, what's going to happen? And the thing that happens in our mind is that it starts filling in the blanks. It starts going to, well, what if this happens? And then if that gets changed, then what will happen? So we start to go into our heads and create these horror movies, at least that's what it looks like to me sometimes, of what may happen. And creating these movies, of course, makes us feel even more ungrounded, even more insecure. We get caught up in a lot of fear. Watching the news, talking to our friends, looking at Facebook or other places is something that for many people actually makes it even stronger in them, this fear and a sense of uncertainty. And the truth is, we all long for peace. We all want to find this sense of joy inside, but we keep looking in the wrong places. We keep looking outside. We keep trying to find out what to hold on to. How can I control this? As if we could. So let's look at where peace actually resides. What is it that is unchanging? What is it that you can always rely on? What is it that has been there since the day you were born? It's yourself. It's your own being. It's never left. It can't go anywhere. You're always home. So it's quite interesting that it's possible for us to forget about this, to get kind of taken away from what we actually know. So most of us have had this experience many times or just a few times where we just felt that we were completely home, where we felt sense of joy, of peace, of longings that stops, just this sense of fulfillment. We all know this, we all intuit it, we all have been here once in a while, or more or less of the time. And then we seem to forget. It's interesting that if we look at this sense of our own being, most people, when I ask them, can track it back to childhood. They can get a sense that is, oh yeah, I remember as a child, this sense of, this is who I am. And that sense of who you are is what has been there always. There's always been a beingness in the world that has gone through all kinds of experiences. Now, experiences come and go. Everything you think, everything you feel, everything you can sense comes and goes. Our five senses change constantly. We taste and we touch and we see and we hear and so on. And it changes constantly. So what doesn't change? What is the only constant? What is it that we can rely on? We can rely on that which has been aware of all of our experiences throughout our life. The awareness of experience has always been untouched by any experience. Just like the sky is untouched by lightning, thunder, bombs going off, airplanes going through the sky. And not only is the sky untouched by anything that goes through it, it doesn't have any judgment about it. It doesn't say this is good, this is bad, this is wrong or right or black or white. The sky is open. Anything can happen there. The sky doesn't mind what happens. So I see this virus and all that is going on in the world as an invitation to become more like the sky. What would happen if this was not a mistake? If we actually saw it as an invitation rather than something that we need to be frightened of? Because what happens when we're frightened? What happens when we panic? Well, what happens is that we make decisions based on the panic and fear, and we become egocentric. Wednesday night of last week, our Prime Minister told everyone on national TV that she was shutting down the schools and most workplaces, and only people who were in jobs that has to do with life and death kind of jobs could actually go to work. All the cinemas are closed, and within an hour, a lot of people went shopping. You may have had this in other countries too, just shopping like crazy, buying 15 packets of yeast as if they were going to win the big baking competition. So what happens when we get gripped by fear is we become egocentric. Everything is about me. What can I lose? What can happen to my family? What if I don't have enough toilet paper? So people become egocentric and pretty much forget about everyone else. So what I see this is an invitation to find back home. And what happens when we're home, what happens when we realize our true self, is that we become other-centric. We become aware of others. We become compassionate. We become just helpful. My father told me earlier today that yesterday the doorbell rang, and he kind of went out and opened, and it was, he lives in a condominium, and the woman who was on top of his apartment came down and said, my dad is 80 years old. She said, look, I'm going to do some shopping. Do you need anything? And he was just so stunned. I mean, this is a woman that he's lived, in the same condominium with for years and years, and they've never spoken. And here comes this random act of kindness, which is something that we do see a lot of as well, which is just beautiful. So what allows us to be kind, what allows us to be helpful, is when we are other-centric, when we are able to look past our own fears, and when we're able to just rest in the knowing of who we are. Now, many people are not aware of who they are. They have not sensed it very often, or they have not been made aware of it, and they have lost sight of it. And that's one of the things that I think the three principles point to so beautifully, is who are we really beyond our thinking? That was the gift that Sid Banks gave to the world, was looking beyond our thinking, looking beyond the contaminated mind, looking beyond the fears, looking beyond even our five senses. Because our five senses keep telling us that something is wrong and you must react now, and this is real, it's a real threat. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's not that we do nothing. It's that, where do we act from? Am I acting from panic and egocentric patterns, or am I acting from a sense of peace and calm inside? Not only does the experience of what's going on change completely when we're resting in ourself, but our compassion, our connection to our own wisdom, and our common sense is just much stronger. And from that space, we can act in ways that are not only helpful to ourselves, but to other people. So I've talked a little bit about where to find peace, that it actually is something that's already in our own being. And I also wanted to address why it is that we forget where to look. I was speaking to a client earlier today, and she was trying to get a grasp of this, why do I keep forgetting? You keep reminding me, and then I keep forgetting. And I said, it's a little like a movie and a screen. When we watch a movie on TV or in the cinema or even on a computer screen, we tend to forget that we're looking at the movie on a screen, right? We get so engaged with the movie. I'm one of these people who get lost in the movie, and I get frightened, and I get, happy and sad, and I really engage myself in the movies, and I completely forget that I'm actually watching it on the screen. So what happens when we lose ourselves in the movie and we forget the screen is that we become, in a way, mixed up with the experience. Now, when we start to kind of take a step back and look at what is in the background of experience, there's something that the experience needs to be projected onto. What the movie is being created from, or the place it's being created from, is our own awareness. It is consciousness. So everything that happens, all of our experiences, is created from consciousness. It is made up by consciousness, and we are aware of it. So our consciousness is aware of experience. So every time we take a step back to the awareness of experience, we find our way back to peace. Whenever we forget consciousness, wherever we forget who we truly are, we get mixed up in the experience, and it looks so real. It looks real because we have five senses that constantly tells us it's real. But I'm listening to the news, I'm seeing all these pictures, I'm looking at all the graphs, and believing everything that I'm seeing, I feel the sense of panic. I feel a victim of what's going on in the world. I lose track of who I am. Remembering who we are is kind of like an anchor that gets us back to a sense of peace, joy, compassion, connection. It's where we find our own common sense. So we remember sometimes, then we forget. with everything that's going on in the world, it's easy to forget. Most people are watching more news than ever, especially, in the countries where everything is shut down. People spend a lot more time watching news, more than they probably usually would. So we get bombarded from the outside with all the things we should be careful of. And there are things that we definitely have to use our common sense around, absolutely. The question is, are you going to act from fear, or are you going to act from love and peace? I'm sure you can sense that there's going to be quite a big difference in your experience, whether you do one or the other. So that's a little bit about why is it that we forget. And it is so easy. I constantly forget. And then luckily I do remember, and I'm back to my common sense. One of the last things that I wanted to touch upon, it is the practical implications of this. How is this practical? Why can looking in the direction of our true nature, of the three principles, how can that be useful for us, especially right now, but pretty much always? When I'm back in peace, when I'm back in common sense, I make better decisions. I'm more able to help other people. Now, helping doesn't necessarily mean that I need to reach out to my neighbor if that doesn't come up in me. But it can be that I'm on the phone calling somebody. It can mean that I just sit at home, and as we all connected, as we all share this being, what am I putting into this shared being? Am I putting in peace in this pool of shared being, or am I putting in my panic? What am I contributing with? So when I look towards my true nature, when I look towards what is always secure, and I find my way back home, that's what I put in to this common consciousness, this one being that we're all part of. It's so interesting. I was speaking to a neighbor today, and she was telling me about how she owns a restaurant, and she was telling me that she's frightened that she won't be able to open it. It's a seasonal restaurant that opens every April 1st and stays open to around October 1st, I think. And so she only has these months to be open. And this is real. It's no joke. She cannot open up her restaurant. It's just not going to happen. And so there are these real challenges that that she and so many others are faced with, including myself. I have had every single business training that I had planned from now until the summer vacation in July. It's all been cancelled. So there are real issues that we need to deal with. Now, how do we best deal with those? We deal with them best by remaining calm, by being in contact with that which has the answers. They don't come from the outside, they come from deep within our own depth. And when I get caught up in my fear, I don't have any connection to the depth. At least it seems that way. I still have the connection, but it doesn't actually always occur to me. It's interesting. I've had to cancel a trip to Los Angeles that I was going to go on Thursday, and I didn't quite know how to handle it. Should I just tell the airline company that I wasn't coming? Should I try and get money back from my insurance company? Should I try and change the dates? I just didn't know what to do. But there's one thing that I know to do when I don't know what to do, and that is to wait. So I waited. I've actually waited for 5 days because I knew from Wednesday that I wasn't going to go away on Thursday. So I've known for several days, and it wasn't until today that the answer came to me, and it was so obvious. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. It really works this way, that when I stay calm, when I wait, when I trust that there is an intelligence behind all of life that has all the solutions that I've been looking for. When I wait and I'm in a place of calmness, then it occurs to me something new. So I love how practical this is. I love that it's not just, spiritual philosophy, but that this spiritual reality is also very practical. It helps in everyday life. It helps us make decisions. It helps us be close to our common sense. It helps us to reach out. I've had calls the last few days from people who don't call that often. And I've called people that I don't talk to that often. So I really see this as an invitation. I see this as a possibility for us to come together, to keep our social distance physically, but not to keep a social distance emotionally. It's an invitation for us to maybe be closer than ever. It's an invitation for us to think more about what we're doing, to connect in new ways. I love that so many meetings now are happening on Zoom. I've been using Zoom as a tool of communication for years, as I have clients from all over the world. But so many companies still felt the need to fly all over, and now that's going to change. So what if, for instance, more companies, very often in companies, they have meetings once a week, they get together and have a meeting. Well, what if they still could have the meeting, but from home on Zoom or whatever other media that they use? Just a meeting where they could check in, and instead of being completely business focused, what if they could just share with each other, how's it going? What's going on for you? So that we keep the connection, that we keep the trust, that we keep the sense of community. There's been so many tragedies throughout time. 9/11 comes to mind, but also other situations where people come together in new ways, where we don't see often the beauty that comes out of the chaos until later on. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard had a saying that we live our life forwards, but we understand it backwards. It's very often when something is over that we realize what it was that went on, really. So what happens if we, in these insecure times, turn to our own being? Instead of turning out, instead of trying to control or predict, which is what we do, instead of trying to do that, what if we simply turn around towards ourselves? What if we turned into that which is the most intimate of knowings, the knowing of who we are, the knowing of ourselves? What if we turned there? What if we all did that? What if we were able to, from that space, to connect deeper, to make some of the choices and decisions that the world really needs right now? There's been such an incredible emphasis on our environment these past couple of years. Well, this is a beautiful time for Mother Earth to breathe, as not a lot of flight is going on right now. At least it's subsiding. What if this was a time where we slow down, that we can start thinking about new opportunities, new ways of being? What if this is an invitation for us to collectively be creative, come up with new ways of solving the real issues that we have in this world. Their environment, disease, famine, all the other things that are going on. We get so caught up in everyday life. We get so caught up in the speed with which things happen that it can become difficult to sit down and take the time and the space to fall into this quiet, creative space full of potential. And from there, together, find new ways of solving these big issues. So that was some of the sort of main points that I wanted to make. And I'm hoping that we can have a conversation about what I was just saying. So I'd love to hear what you have to say. So I would like to open up to you and hear if you have any questions.
Yeah, if you have a question or a comment, you can unmute yourself and then just mute yourself again when you're not talking, or you can raise your hand by clicking on the participant icon on the bottom of the Zoom screen, and then a white side window will pop up and there's a raise hand button there.
Just if you have any, doesn't have to be a question. It can be, did something resonate with you? Something.
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hi, my name is Mette. I'm also from Denmark.
Yeah. Hi.
I like to put things, something like there are always two sides of the coin. And we are in this situation by now, nothing to do about that, but to find what we can do about it. I think right now there's a fantastic opportunity to fathers and mothers to have a wonderful time with their children. Yeah. So, and I also think, yeah, as you just mentioned, pointed, maybe we can find another way instead of flying all over the world to meet. And that is all, in fact, the only thing we are doing it for, to meet and to talk about something. Why not use this and don't put all this pollution out in the world? So yeah, maybe I think this could be seen as an opportunity to find new ways instead of just I'm sorry for my way to explain that, shit happens. There are also opportunities, and let's look for them, because we have 14 days or more to do that. So yeah, nice, thank you.
Yeah, Mid, I agree completely. It's really, there's some opportunities here for us to get together in new ways and to address some of the real concerns and challenges that the world is facing. And yeah, I too have thought about how families are getting time together that they often don't get in everyday life. And for many people it's a blessing. For some people it's really difficult, and they really need help. So how can we help in our communities as well? Thanks. Anyone else? Something that resonated with you?
Hello, this is Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Let me see if I can go on camera. Okay, here we go. Hi, David. How are you?
Good.
So good to see you, and thank you for doing that. You know, it's almost surreal, this experience. I just came back from my chemo treatment at USC Hospital, and to see the just the unknowing and the fear and like the confusion of medical personnel, and it's almost like part of people that are ignoring, and part of people that are like overwhelmed, and part of people that are going with masks. What resonated with me, you know, and you can hear it in my voice, I'm like totally calm. I was calm from the get-go. It might be my DNA, it might be my training as an Israeli with all the wars and a child of Holocaust survivors, you know, and I've been to disasters in my life, you know, as a child and as an adult. So this is okay. Well, okay, now what? But what you just said about that we really don't need to do anything, just be in our beingness. Because for me, it's like it always was the doer. And it's like, it's up to me to save the world. It's up to me to do stuff. It's up to me. And with this understanding, the freedom of like, I really don't need to do a thing. And me residing in my calmness. And that's actually that is like kind of like my new job, because everybody was panicking around me. I'm like, I'm also a retired pharmacist. So kind of like I have like the degree to kind of like say, well, look, you know, I know, which I don't, I have no clue, like everybody else. But at least people think I do. So I play it. But what I do know is that whatever it is, it is. And whatever unfolds, it will unfold. And we all are going to be better than that. And those of us that are going to survive it are going to survive it. And those of us who won't. But that's true with any situation. And so this freedom of just being and not needing to do. I also was overwhelmed with so many neighbors and friends, like literally a friend from Malibu is in part of this community. It's an hour away from me. Called me yesterday and said, whatever you need, I'll come and drop. I mean, it's an hour with no traffic in Los Angeles. I'll drop it on your doorstep, just let me know. And like, I've goosebumps because I'm overwhelmed with the kindness. And I, you know, I had another experience that I'm laughing at because I understand it's the discomfort, and we are so used to our comfort, and we all want to be comforted. And so the thought of me not being able to go, because I said, okay, I'm going to quarantine myself, I'm not going to the stores. But then the next thought was, well, how about my weekly flowers? Because I like going to Trader Joe's and get my flowers. And how am I going to survive without flowers? Of course, the next thought was like, you can survive 2 weeks with no fresh flowers, Rachel, you know, and you have flowers in your garden. But the next thing that happened is one of my neighbors left me a little brown bag with some bay leaves from her tree and some plastic paper flowers, roses, beautiful roses. Now, I don't have those like for many, many years, but I was like, okay, God, I get it. Okay, Spirit. And I started laughing. The next thing is another friend came by and she said, would you accept flowers from my garden? I'm like, absolutely. And so here we go, you know. It's like, okay, you know, there is this sense of communication, what you said, that the solutions are not coming from me doing. The solutions are there. And when I let go, they show up in funny ways sometimes, in unexpected ways, but it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. So thank you.
Delightful to hear. It's and it's right. They come from unexpected places. It's not that you know, call everybody who has flowers. I need flowers. Who could bring me flowers? It just turns up at your doorstep.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so important that I really want you to hear that when I say we don't have to do anything, it doesn't mean that we don't respond. We do respond to life, but there's a big difference between how I respond. Do I respond from fear? Do I act from a sense of this panic? I was just reading today that in Denmark, people go into hospitals and they steal the hand sanitizer because we can't get it from any stores anymore. They're sold out, you know, a long time ago. So they steal it from hospitals and other equipment. So now hospitals have to find people who guard these sanitizers and other things. That is being egocentric. That is the sort of the worst of human nature. When we get frightened, we think of us and how can I survive. And when we're not, when we are peaceful, when we are back home, that's when we can respond with kindness. We can be the one who receives help from others. We can be the one that knocks on the neighbor's door with flowers or with coffee or with groceries, or just a friendly conversation. There's so many people who are right now sitting in the nursing homes. In Denmark, they've closed off all the nursing homes, so they're not able to have visitors from their friends and family. So how can we stay in touch? Well, we can call them instead of going there. So it's about responding from the space inside, responding from love, responding from wisdom, being response able from this place of peace inside. Who else has a comment or a question? Or I love sharing stories with you guys. It's beautiful to hear how you're having experiences of this in your lives. Nancy.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Do I have to unmute? I'm unmuted.
You're unmuted. Yeah.
Okay. Hello. This is fabulous. What a great day to have this opportunity to see you and everyone else. And I thought about, well, I didn't really have a question, but something that really resonates was when you were saying about this opportunity to be more like the sky. And that just really feels so, that feels, just rings true. And I have found that this, all that's happening now, I mean, it's been quite a, like a roller coaster of getting all into the fear and then recognizing, oh, you know, I don't really have to do that. and letting myself settle down, and I actually feel the settling, and it's become more obvious in this time frame, where it's almost like, okay, you want a challenge? Here, everything's been heightened up. And just the fact that we are on this call and people, you know, in all these different countries. Today, I had the experience of going to the grocery store for the first time in a couple of days. And I'm in Nashville in Tennessee. And I have actually never experienced going to a grocery store and finding all the shelves empty. I mean, not all the shelves, but a whole row of shelves empty. And no, you know, no, like all of the meat, chicken, gone. It's all gone. and I asked at the customer desk, you know, what were their, you know, what's their sense of what's, you know, when is more going to be on the shelves? And they don't really know. They honestly don't know. And so I just feel like, wow, you know, I know there's people all over the planet that have that experience many, many times, or they don't even have a store to go to. So, you know, it was just pretty, I feel like what's happened is that it's more of a reality of how interconnected we all are. Even though I know this, and I know this in my heart and in my in the space within, it's just now, it's kind of like life has said, okay, here's even more opportunity to see that is true. That is what's true. Yeah.
I love that. It's kind of humbling to stand in front of empty shelves and to realize how often that they are not empty, how often and how lucky we are that we usually are able to buy food.
Right. Yeah.
get our
Yeah.
basic needs met,
Mm-hmm.
and to know how many people in the world starve from starvation, or die from starvation every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really humbling.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, as I said before, an indication of how many people become egocentric.
Mm. Yeah, and just operating out of the fear, like, I'm not going to have enough, so I have to buy it all, and
Yeah.
then there isn't anything left for anybody else. And I just have, yeah, I guess the experience for me is just that the contrast, and just noticing, like, okay, now I'm really in fear. I think my blood pressure is way up, and I'm thinking about, what's going to happen with this or that. And it's kind of funny you mentioned about the, if everyone now had to cancel so many flights. And I did a lot of that in my career of, going from here and there and everywhere. And I thought, way back, I thought, what if everybody just stayed where they are? What if we all just stayed where we are? And with technology, we can do that. And that's something else that I wanted to say, is that so many of these conversations, I mostly just listen in. I don't really say very much, but I feel such connection. I feel very much gratitude for the connection, that it's true. We don't have to be in the same room. We can use the technology and really operate from this depth of wisdom.
Yeah. We share this space together.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter that
Yeah.
we're sitting in different countries and different rooms. We share the same space,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not physical space that I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
We share a being, and this shared being knows ourselves and each other all the time. And this is such a good opportunity and a beautiful invitation for us to remember that we are a shared being.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, find new ways of dealing with things.
Yeah.
It really is beautiful.
And I did want to mention that I just love your book, the one Coming Home with Dick. And yeah, I read that book, and I read it over and over again, because it just takes me right there. And it's just, yeah, it's just beautiful. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Appreciate
Having
that.
a book club that starts next month, where we're gonna over 4 times read it with people.
Wow.
Anyway,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Thanks for sharing, Nancy.
Thank you.
Yeah, isn't it interesting how we sit here in all these different rooms, yet we share the same being, we share the same space, and all we're doing whenever we meet, not just today, of course, but in all these different gatherings, whether it's that we physically are together or just in these different meeting rooms, that we remind each other of our shared being. We remind each other of who we are. We're reminded of this space of love that we share with each other. And I truly believe that it's the way that we heal the world. It's the way that we find solutions to the issues that are at hand. So I love that we can meet this way. Anyone else has a comment, something that resonates?
Thomas, I unmuted you.
Hi. In this moment and in this conversation, and also having heard Natasha over the conference over the weekend, the issue of global warming, I've recently come across a whole new understanding about it. And I just wanted to share the opportunity for others to learn. There's an Australian microbiologist, soil microbiologist named Walter Jehne, Jehne. And he tells, it takes him about 2 hours, but he develops pieces of this story of what actually influences climate. And the thermal geodynamics of the Earth are primarily determined by water vapor. Carbon in the atmosphere is about a 4% factor. But over the 2 hours, he develops a little piece and he says, oh, but that's not the way nature works. There's this other thing. And then he does that. And then, but over the 2 hours, it's like the puzzle drops together. And so that information is available. He's on YouTube. There are several tapes of him. There's one where there's a woman in a yellow shirt in the picture. That one's great. But he tells the same story every time. So for anybody who's interested in exploring that in this time, that's an opportunity that's available. And as far as being calm and all that, yes. So that's all. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. It's great to have these scientists who make clear for us, some of the things that seem so complex, and good scientists, they're good at making it simple. That's great. Thanks.
I'm not sure I can be heard. I'm way out here in Kauai right now.
Oh, is it you, Morgan?
It is. I'm driving right now. I don't have a camera, a beautiful picture to show you, but I just wanted to share a few thoughts, and I really appreciate you doing this. This is quite timely. But what this brings to mind is for decades, we've said that there's no way that we can have a massive transformation on this planet. And what we're experiencing right now is a transformation. And it's we are all of one mind. Now, the motivation may not be ideal, but we are actually doing something that we've kind of aspired to be doing for quite some time, and that is we're all working together for the common good. And I want to emphasize, it's not the virus that did this, it is our thinking that is doing this. Human thinking is our choice. We're actually making this choice to do this. So I view this as an incredible opportunity. It is a lesson that we may soon forget. It kind of harkens back to when we had Aniki here on Kauai back in 1991. The island was essentially destroyed. The economy went away, and everything changed. It took 10 years to come back. But the thing that I remember about that is the humanity that showed up when our habitual life disappeared. And it was an exciting time until the little gray lights started popping back on again, and people quit coming together and they went back into their individual ego lives. Not sure how long this one will last, but to me it's very wonderful. Just think what we could do instead of all coming together in this planet as one in reaction to something we hold as negative. Imagine if we were proactive and we decided to do something like, this week, we're going to eliminate world hunger. We're going to do this as one. This proves we have the power to do it. We have the motive to mobilize resources, to do all the things necessary to really solve the problems of the world. And so that's why I'm really heartened by this experience, because I think a lot of people will awaken who may not have been awake. So I'm just kind of, I don't know, it could also be the negative ions that are turning me on here, where it's just this incredible storm on Kauai right now, but I just feel really very positive about what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree with you, Morgan. It's such a beautiful opportunity that we have right now to slow down and to stand together. And I agree. So many times over the years, people have come together for a while and then they forget. Like 9/11 happened, and the world in many ways came together. And then now we're just really annoyed that we have to, take our shoes off when we go through the airport. No, we can forget about the beauty that came out of it.
it's it's kind of like the macrocosm of our individual thinking, isn't it?
Mm,
Um, if there's any question of whether our thinking creates our reality and our experience, I think um, this is clearly demonstrates that on a massive scale. I mean, we're,
absolutely.
so anyway, I just wanted to thank you again for holding this, and I guess that's it from Kauai.
Thanks for calling in from Kauai. Yeah, it's absolutely. I love what you just ended up by saying, Morgan. That if it was ever unclear to people that our experience is created from thought, then this makes it really obvious, because we react so differently to one shared reality. That the reality of what's going on is all over the world, and we all are part of that. But the way we perceive it, the way we engage in it, is so different depending on what we think and who we think we are. So the moment that we remember our true and shared being, it really gives us these opportunities of getting together in new ways. And if we get frightened and we think that we're alone and that we're victims of what's going on, then we'll react from that reality that's created from thinking. So it really does get quite obvious. So we have one more that wanted to say something. I
Yeah.
saw
Hi.
Shelley.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so
Hi.
much for your talk. It was wonderful. But I just wanted to share a story that just happened. And so my husband's at work, and he texted me earlier today that they may be declaring martial law, and I should go to the store and stock up on noodles and beans and whatever. So I thought about it, and my first thought was, I could text him and say, okay, David, they may not, but you're like overthinking this, like, because you heard that and now it's in your head and you're creating all these thoughts. And I thought, no, like, I wouldn't want someone to sit there and tell me that. Like, I wouldn't hear it. So I went down to the kitchen and I took all the noodles out, the packages of noodles out of the pantry, all the millions of cans of beans and bags of beans, and I took a picture of the whole thing. And I texted him back and I said, okay, if you think you need more than this, I'll go to the store. And I thought, because once, like, yes, I totally fall out of this thinking all the time. But when you see a glimpse of it and you see someone else reacting from their thoughts of fear, it doesn't work to call them out on it, especially if they know nothing about the thinking. So that was my story.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's absolutely perfect. And I love the way that you reacted to that, taking pictures of and sending to him. But I absolutely agree. Pointing out to people that they're caught up in their fearful thinking is not very helpful, and it's not very loving. Doing what you're doing was a brilliant way of solving it.
Yeah, I mean, he has enough noodles and beans that if this lasts 5 years, he's fine.
Yeah. I remember one time a few years ago, there was about 3 months that I didn't have a lot of work. It was a lot of things were canceled. And so I said to my husband, wow, I don't have an income for the next 3 months. And so we started opening up drawers, and, and we had noodles and rice and canned tuna, we pretty much lived for 3 months out of what we had in our cupboards. We didn't have to buy almost anything except for a few, fresh vegetables. It's incredible what we have.
Yeah, so much so. Well, stay healthy, everybody, and thank you.
Thank you for sharing. We have a few more minutes if somebody else wants to share. I really am enjoying listening to your stories. It's very hopeful, stories of hope and love.
Yeah, Ellen?
Yeah, hi, Natasha.
Hi.
And everyone else. I was listening by phone for most of the time, but I'm so glad that I made it back so that I can actually see you and tell you how much I miss you and how much I really appreciate, thank you, yes, how much I really appreciated this time today. As in the last couple of weeks, as I've been having interactions with people in any way, in person or by phone, it's like, how are you coping? How are you dealing? And I just, like, my natural response has been, I'm just committed to contributing peace to the planet. And my knowing of that and knowing where that comes from has been like such a gift to me and to others. But today, I forgot until you were speaking, like how much that the level of peace is infinite. And the place that I shifted from, or expanded into, I should say, or deepened into from your sharing was really profound. Especially when you spoke about the space where answers come and how clear they are. Because there's some decisions that I'm going to be making in the next couple hours about, that's, I don't want to, that I feel clear on, but they're, let's just say they're not in the highest good of my health. But I feel so clear on them. I feel so clear that I need to do it, even though, like, if I tell anyone what I need, what I'm going to be doing, they would be like, are you insane? Why are you jeopardizing your health to do that? But it just feels so clear to do it. But what happened in this morning for me is that, and I can change my mind up until that last second where I have to do that. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great seeing you, Ellen. And I love that you, like me, want to contribute to peace. And contributing to peace, I know that both you and I and many others do that by having conversations with people, sharing online, or even people coming to our homes. But we can share peace in our homes, from our homes, because we are one shared being. We don't have to have conversations with people. We don't have to run out and do seminars or teach. We can sit at home and be peace. And that peace resonates into the shared being. This is how we create peace on earth.
Yeah.
And we must do what we must do, and we must do what we're called to do. But that calling comes from within. It doesn't come from the panic of being a victim or alone or lost. It comes from this deep knowing from within, like, oh, I should reach out to this person, or oh, I want to eat in a certain way, or do something different, or travel or not travel, whatever it is. The deep knowing, the most intimate part of who we are is knowing, the knowing of ourselves, the realizing of our true self.
Yeah, so thanks again for just when you told that story about like that, the answer coming so clearly. I mean, I know that over and over, but it landed in a deeper place to me today. So,
Oh, thanks, Ellen.
thank you.
Thank
Lots
you.
of love to everyone, and health,
You too.
blessings of health and peace.
So, Bonnie, I know that we've spent an hour. Are there anyone with any sort of a burning last comment, or are we ready to wrap up?
Gosh, Natasha, I just loved everything that you said and what everybody is sharing. And so, there's so many things that come to mind, but one is how several people mentioned how timely this conversation it was today with you being here. And I just recall how many emails we did going back and forth trying to find a date, right? So the fact that mind led us to this day, you know, it could have been May or June that we settled on. So just things like that just really strike me. And I really love the idea of, I don't know why I hadn't thought of this, but the idea that this is an opportunity for the planet to heal too, by us all staying home and not contributing more. That's just so beautiful. Yeah, loved everything about this call today.
Yeah, and it's true. We did write back and forth several times to find a date, and we couldn't have worked this out any better, could we?
No, it's perfect.
So if I could just say, you know, the last word I want to say to people is that let's see this as an opportunity. Let's see this as an invitation to connect in new ways, connect out of love, connect out of wisdom, act out of kindness, act out of the knowing of what is true for you to do in this world. I really hope that you all stay safe and that we can all remember who we are and that we are one shared being.
Yeah. Thank you. And just I'm just going to answer Johanna's question. Yes, the recording will be up on our YouTube channel, the 3PGC YouTube channel, hopefully in a couple of hours. And I want to also tell you that we're having a third webinar this month, and it's next Monday with John L. Mukadon. So hopefully you can make it then as well. Thank you all for attending. We appreciate it. Thanks, Helen, for posting that, the 3PGs. Thanks. Okay, everybody, bye.
Thanks for coming, everyone. All the ones I know and new faces as well. Thank you for coming and joining. Take care. Lots of love.